Are the Buckeyes of Ohio State and their high-powered offense. As we welcome you in after today, Tennessee with wins over teams out of the Buckeye State, including Ohio State. They staved off elimination
runs this weekend. Well, guess what? Tennessee, the only team to
regionals on the line for the Lady Vols.
You mentioned the experience for the redshirt junior Kennedy K. This is a very young Ohio State pitching staff. 3 freshman arms and only 18 innings of experience coming into this season. And guess what? Kennedy K holds all 18.
Kinsey Fiedler, the senior out of Lee's Summit, Missouri, fouling off the first couple of pitches. Well, one thing that Karen Weekly has seen out of her offense since Friday is the ability to get on base. They got the leadoff on in the first 5 innings yesterday in their win against the Buckeyes. Lady Vols trying to make a trip to their 14th Super Regional. And this group has looked solid all weekend long. The 1-2 pitch to Fiedler. Outside for ball 2. Go back to that win Friday, 17 runs, tied for second most in a tournament by the Lady Vols, and that run rule victory over Miami of Ohio. And Kinsey Fiedler sends this one out to the center gap, and right there is Skylar Lamone for out number 1.
One of the most iconic coaches in our game right now, 24th season at Tennessee. See the super regional appearance, second straight. She's got 6 SEC titles, over 1,300 wins. And she is one of the best to ever do it.
And remember, she helped to build this program into a perennial power with her husband, Ralph Weekly. They were co-head coaches for 19 seasons until his retirement in 2021. She's since taken over the program, and they have just been uber successful under the solo leadership of Coach Weekly. Savia Morgan.
Chance to say hi to Ralph yesterday. He stopped by the booth and said hello. Sounds like he's working on a book, writing a book.
Yeah. Well, he's got USA softball experience. He was the national director, assistant, and so he said, well, I'm the one with all the knowledge and information, so I can provide some insight. And that pause there that you saw was a defensive swap in the infield for Ohio State, with the second baseman, Caitlin Farley, moving over to third, and Sammy Buick taking her position at second. We've seen that throughout the weekend, something that's been very common as a defensive strategy for Karen Kumar and her team.
Well, it was interesting in day 1 that swap was actually what extended an inning for Ohio State. An out was wiped off the board. North Carolina pulled back up to the plate. That's a defensive change that's got to be reported. 2K not reporting it to home plate. Well, she has reported it every single defensive swap since.
And so we anticipate seeing her come back out to alert Aaron Peterson, home plate umpire, of the swap back.
We had some good discussion too. We see those situational defensive changes quite often, specifically against the slappers, as you just saw with Savia Morgan. The difference is that when it's a clean switch and there's no position open, it does require reporting to home plate umpire. I mean, I see it all the time. You see center fielder walk into the dirt, serve as that 5th infielder, but because there's a position open, that doesn't require a report.
First pitch swing. Starting lineup brought to you by Capital One and Reagan Milliken, the senior, who has had an outstanding weekend. 6 for 9, a couple of home runs, and 3 RBI in the process to help fuel this Ohio State team. And obviously this Buckeye group, who's already done some great things, they were able to get a number of home runs boosted out of the park. Tied a single game record in the NCAA tournament with 6 against North Carolina. They're coming off the most wins that they, or runs rather, that they have scored in an NCAA tournament. And that victory over Miami of Ohio yesterday. Elimination game allowed them a rematch here against Tennessee, and Hadley Parisian down 0-2 in the count, pops it up. Underneath it is McKenna Gibson in foul territory along the first base line, and 1 away.
This is an Ohio State team that leads the nation in multiple offensive categories: total runs scored, home runs, RBIs, averaging over 8 per game. Head coach Kiran Kumar, 2K as they like to call her, was quick to let us know pre-weekend call that not only do they lead in the long ball and runs scored, but they also lead in walks. They lead this nation in free backs. Pretty important category as well.
Jazzy Burns, one of the best hitters in this lineup for Kiran Kumar, and those are the numbers that you're talking about, Aaron, right there. I mean, just jarring when you see 147 home runs, 495 runs scored, to go along with the number of base on balls this season, 278. It's just been outstanding as first-year head coach Kiran Kumar has lifted this program and their offensive prowess. This group making their first regional final appearance since 2018. They faced off against another SEC team back then against Florida. They needed to win twice then. And here they find themselves in a similar position, needing to notch 2 here this afternoon. The 1-2 pitch going up and getting it, and down the third base line, a diving Taylor Panel could not get to it, and a 1-out base hit for Jazzy Burns.
Jazzy Burns has gone yard a couple times this weekend, struggled a bit in day 2 at the plate, a couple of strikeouts, a ground out, and trying to find that ball back in the strike zone. Laces this one down the third base line past Panel.
Here's Cami Quartercrack swinging at the first pitch, and she's one of a handful of starters that Kiran Kumar saw returning to this program, and Quartercracks, who has just been terrific throughout her career in a Buckeye uniform. A leader for this team, not only by her play on the field, but also vocally, and talking with Quartercracks, she's really been able to just glean from the knowledge and the offensive mind from Kiran Kumar. She's credited her coach for just bringing out the best of their talent this season.
Yeah, she actually, Quartercracks brought up this theory called the J curve, and I guess that's something that 2K talks about frequently during fall off season, and that this team, once they start to train, once they start to hit the ground running with team practices and weightlifting, that there's going to be a moment you feel like you're getting worse. You're going to get beat up. You're going to be tired. The body's going to take a beating. You're going to feel like you're taking some steps back before you start to see that J curve peak. 2K had some good laughs with Cami Quartercracks too. She said, I thought for a second I messed you up a little bit. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. A heck of a season in the 3-hole.
And this one into the stands, and everyone kind of clearing the way. Still 1-2.
She's one of 4 in this starting lineup that has over 20 home runs. Went yard twice yesterday.
I mean, 1 through 9 is hitting above 300. And quarter cracks, goes down swinging. Margeco loves it. You see the communication between her and Sophia Nugent. The fans here for the Lady Vols like it as well.
This is a sophomore arm in Margeco that can move to all 4 quadrants. She really does have it all. And talking to Karen Weekly about this young arm, when she pitches with reckless abandon, it is brilliant to watch, and settling in here early against a tough offense.
That brings up Reagan Milliken, the 4-hole hitter. Milliken, the senior out of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, who came into this season with just 1 hit in her career. And now she's experiencing a career best in her final season with Ohio State. You see where her numbers rank. You mentioned 4 different players having hit 20 home runs or more. Milliken in that number as she pops it up in the shallow center. Calling for it is Ella Dodd.
Yesterday we saw him in the kilts. Little river dance happened on the concourse.
You mentioned the overalls of the past. They continue to expand. Well, credit Kennedy Kay, who sat down the Lady Vols in order for the first time this weekend. Sophia Nugent leading it off here for Tennessee. She's been one of the hot bats. Caught inside, and Sammy Buick over there with the dugout. And she retires. Sophia Nugent, another look here.
This takes a lot of awareness, a lot of communication. You can see her and Jazzy Burns behind the home plate, chatting with each other, trying to communicate where this ball is and who's going to give chase.
And we've seen a number of those balls popped up and not able to be collected throughout this weekend. Good job by Buick.
We've had some suns and high skies.
Well, this is how Tennessee got here. If you're just tuning in, an explosive day at the plate for the Lady Vols. 17 runs put up to take down Miami of Ohio, and they defeated Ohio State yesterday behind the arm of Carlin Pickens. First base hit for the Lady Vols coming off the bat of McKenna Gibson.
Gibson is such a stud. Not just only with the talent, with what she can do physically on this field, but you know how she's described by her teammates, by her coaching staff, is steady Eddie. Like you never know if she's high, low, anything in between. It shows up in her patience, her command at the plate.
Gibson steady. Laura Mueller has been sizzling this weekend. Grand slam, RBI single. Her numbers so impressive. 3 hits and 4 at-bats this weekend. 5 RBI total, the most of anyone on this Tennessee team this weekend. Senior out of Chapel Hill, Tennessee.
This is a senior that spent most of last season just trying to convince herself and prove that she belonged here. Said that this last year for her has been one of freedom.
And what a snag and ride by Taylor Cruz to rob Mueller of her 4th base hit of the weekend.
You know, you hear this all the time, that defense wins championships. Well, 2K, Karen Kumar challenged us on that theory, that defense doesn't win championships. Defense gives your offense time and space to put runs on the board. And with this offense of Ohio State and defensive plays like that, they're liable to go pretty deep.
Well, she wasn't shy about saying, hey, look, we messed it up in our Big Ten tournament game. Our last appearance where we had 5 errors. She said that had to be erased. We had to clean that up in order to give ourselves a shot. Now 2 down for Emma Clark. and one of the trio of freshmen that Kieran Weekly sees in the starting lineup. And some question this Tennessee offense coming into regionals about whether they would be able to produce to advance on. And Kieran Weekly says, hey, we blocked out that noise. And quite honestly, we were tired of hearing all of that because we knew what we were capable of, and they have certainly shown that thus far through their 2 games.
This is a team that at one point was dead last in offensive numbers in the SEC, and I've had a chance to cover Tennessee quite a bit this year. A lot of honest conversations with Karen Weekly. At one point she said, we're aware of it. We talk about it, we're working on it, we take pride in it. We want to see this shift offensively for this group. And coming into this weekend, we asked about that offensive evolution. She said that Ole Miss series was one that really turned things around, a complete offensive weekend for this group. They scored in multiple ways. And it was the little things that got the job done. There's truly nothing this team hasn't seen, and that's something she's grateful for. Playing in the SEC, this team's been battle-tested all year long.
The 2-2 pitch to Emma Clark. And Clark is retired. So season, dozen home runs. And helping this program to notch 45 wins on the season, tied for 3rd most in program history. And looking back over the Buckeyes this season, they tested themselves early just to prepare themselves for the gauntlet of the Big 12 and try to get ready for the types of teams they face in the NCAA tournament. As going back to the warning track to Savannah Morgan, she rings in that one.
You know, they've even moved the needle just within their conference. Most home runs in Big 10 history. #1 in extra base hits, #1 in home run. I mean, this is nationally what they've done, but 2 even in their own backyard. The Big 10, this has been a massive year for Ohio State.
Finished 11th last year, a 4th place finish in the Big 10 this season. Big series wins against Nebraska, sweeping Michigan. Both those teams in action in the tournament today. It's going to be really interesting because whoever wins in this Knoxville regional will face off against either the Huskers or the darlings of the tournament for the 2nd season in a row, Southeastern Louisiana Lady Lions, after their major upset over LSU, knocking off the 10 seed. So 1st and only national seed to go down, but several are on the ropes today, including #1 Texas A&M. They've got to win 2 to stave off elimination as Sammy Buick.
Oh, and Southeastern Louisiana beating LSU twice on their home turf, hosting that regional site. The only team that has run-rolled Southeastern Louisiana all season long, Nebraska. So they're going to have to take 2 from the only team that has blanked them in 5 innings.
Well, you listened to your coach yesterday and just
gosh.
Furman he's got a whole different approach and mentality, but they were as fearless as ever.
That post-game interview brought me to tears.
Yeah.
I mean, it was emotional, the pride he had in this program. What they did last year in Tuscaloosa, the fact that they've been able to turn around and beat the host not once but twice this year in Baton Rouge. Winner of that game today, potentially facing Knoxville, or if Ohio State can take 2, the Buckeyes.
They're buckle at the knees, and Morgan Fry is now facing a 1-ball, 2-strike count.
Rajecko doing a really good job of settling in. There's back-to-back changeups. I mean, this is a mid-60s arm. Sage Marjecko just shaves the corner so well, has a curve and a screw, really good at spotting both sides of this strike zone. I think right now, knowing to be able to.
2 strikes and the pitch. Fouled off once again. Series for Marjecko, went 5 innings, only gave up 1 run, struck out 3. Their lone victory over the Aggies. Karen Weekly, full confidence in the sophomore here today as the count draws full.
Yeah, this is a pitch that Marjecko wants to get called, but that is the right call. I mean, you can see right over the chalk line, a great take by Morgan Fry. Keep in mind, we're early in this game, right? Sage Marjecko is still trying to understand and establish this strike zone with home plate umpire Aaron Peterson behind the plate. For both Kennedy K and Sage Marjecko, it's understanding what they can get away with. How is this going to shape my pitch sequences moving forward? Where can I go?
The 2-out walk to Fry brings up Skylar Lamone, and remember, we've seen all weekend the way that the bottom of the order has produced for Ohio State. Lamone hitting in the 8-hole. Second team all Big Ten selection. Has really made the most of her opportunities this season. And there illustrates the point perfectly. 6 hits, 5 RBI, a couple of home runs, and again, 6 walks as well. As Megan Rhodes Smith out in the circle to talk it over with her battery, as Carlin Pickens getting ready in the bullpen if needed. The conversation that you and I had before today's game is how long of a leash, or how short was that leash going to be for Sage Marjecko in the circle?
Right now, a scoreless ball game. I would imagine the goal here is for a little bit of breath and some more recovery for Carlin Pickens, who threw a complete game yesterday, threw 2 innings in day 1. And for Marjecko to hold down the fort, right? To throw her best stuff, to provide some time and space for Tennessee offense to settle in, put some runs up on the board. I think Marjecko's been doing a really good job. The off-speed pitch has looked strong. She's just got to continue to establish that strike zone first time through the order.
The 2-2 pitch. And she gets Lamone looking. Big K there for Sage March. Meanwhile, for Kennedy K, what have you seen out of this redshirt junior's arm thus far? And how she's been effective so far, only allowing 1 hit against this resurgent Ladyville offense. As Gabby Leach grounds it over to shortstop.
This is an arm that, per 2K, has to hit the spots well to be successful. This was a year where she really focused on the drop ball, nailing that break and that pitch all off season long, and right now using the defense behind her. Has some flyouts, some groundouts. This is not a strikeout arm. This is a team that's got to use the D behind her in order to get out of innings, and has done a pretty good job.
Here's the freshman Ella Dodge taking strike 1. Dodge, who has had some great moments so far in her freshman campaign. Bright future ahead for the red shirt. Freshman out of Bradenton, Florida. A game-winning home run against Oklahoma back in March. That was her first hit in SEC play. since then, she's continued to build on those good moments. The 2-1. And Dodge over to second base. And 2 down.
Again, another drop ball. I will tell you, a drop ball was my least favorite pitch to have to prepare for, to have a plan for. Not only are you having to time up the location of this pitch being low at the knees, but you also have to plan and time the break. The fact that it falls late in the strike zone, the back half of your stance dips down under that kneecap. What you're noticing is Tennessee out early, rolling over that pitch. You have to see a drop ball late. You almost have to envision a drop ball being up the middle opposite field. Like an off-speed pitch is how I would approach a drop ball arm. You cannot be early.
Back to the top of the order, and Kinsey Fiedler. That drop ball, she hit over the quarter cracks, and the currently on the team. Folks, an opportunity to advance to the Super Regional round, and Tennessee 1 game away. Ohio State needs to win this game and the next game if they can push to get their first Super in 7 years. It's the win or go home time. Both teams we've really seen bringing their best today, each with 1 hit apiece. 1 scoreless in the bottom of the 3rd, and the grounder over to the corner, and Taylor Cruz is retired. Taylor Panel, who has meant so much to this Tennessee team this season, with that put out. And back to the top of the order is Hadley Parisian and these Ohio State Buckeyes. That one sailed out of the hand of Marjeko, who has NCAA tournament experience. Remember, she was with South Carolina last year and started for the Gamecocks. We're currently a national seed this season. Which story that was, picked to finish last in the SEC. And first-year head coach Ashley Chastain Woodard has done amazing things with the crew out of Columbia, South Carolina.
Had a chance to call South Carolina softball this year as well, and boy, what a wild year it has been for her. I mean, coming into brand new program, her husband still coaching baseball at Charlotte. They live 90 minutes away from each other, bought a house in South Carolina, and doing the long distance thing for a while.
Hanging up in the air for a while, and Fiedler is there.
One of the goals for South Carolina this year was just to get in the middle of the pack of that conference. They end up hosting a regional, top 16 seeds. And speaking of goals, another first-year head coach in Kiran Kumar, she took